Welcome to the first lesson of generic protocol in chapter 7. Back in chapter 4, you've learned what protocol stands for and also you understood what it does, right? Basketball coach, remember? But in this lesson, you will learn how to make protocol generic, allowing you to have scalability and reusability. Hey guys, welcome to Learn Swift About. Today let's talk about generic protocols. Well, specifically we talk about associated type. Well, what it is? Well, you have to look at this word generic. Well, we talked about it in chapter 1. It is all about making reusable as well as code that doesn't repeat yourself. Well, identical meaning reusable. And it's something that people want to work with you. You know, your teammates will love working with you. Anyway, so in the past, we only work with protocol that is not generic. Today in this lesson, we're going to make protocol generic. In other words, we're going to make protocol more scalable. But before we go on, we have to remember the number one rule. The type must be defined before compile. All right, that's the rule we're going to talk. We always keep in mind from chapter 1, lesson 1. We talked about it, right? So keep that in mind, and let's move on. So let's review generic in the first place to appreciate to whether it follows the rule. So for example, it's a review we've done in the past. Generic structs. There are two ways to make this struct object, but you gotta define a t. One way was to what? You can tell that hey, this must be bool value, so the t becomes bool. Okay. Or the second way is you can tell that hey, can Swift infer the t based on the value you enter? Yes, you can. So t becomes a string in this case right now. Okay, cool. So now you understand that, or this part of the just review, I just want to go through a review. Okay, you have to define the type. So when it comes to protocol, let's talk about your past, how you've done in the past. So now we're done with generic review. Now let's talk about protocols. Well, in the past, when you define a protocol like this, normal protocol, property string get as said does right. You know the rule, right? We talked about in chapter 3, I believe, 3 or 4, I believe. But now, when a class confirms to that protocol, it only can work with string values. So if you think about the property right now, you can only work with string values. So anything that confirms a normal protocol, it has to contain string value, and that is not that scalable. It kind of limiting you from working with different types. So in this lesson, what the protocol associative type allows it to you is you can actually confirm to a protocol, but you can actually have all kinds of value that you want to have. So let's talk about it. This associate type thing will make your code more scalable, and the protocol becomes more applicable for many other areas. So let's talk about it. So I'm gonna introduce you to the generic protocol. This is a main part of this lesson. Again, Laura, you're gonna really love it. I love this generic protocols. I love it. So first of all, create a protocol called generic protocol, and here let's call it any property, and let's call this. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it Bob, or you can call it Bobby. Doesn't really matter. But you gotta tell here associate type, my type. It's like type alias. I'm gonna walk you through. So anything that confirms to generic protocol, you have to define associate type. Okay, you have to define what my type is. So there are two ways to do it. So one way is, well, some struct that confirms the generic protocol, it has to contain the value of my the property, but the type is not defined yet. All right, it is defined based on the value. So my type now becomes int value. Okay, cool. So again, go back to the rule number 1. The type has to be defined no matter what. Okay, so now you're defining the type implicitly by telling the based on the value. Okay, again, we can do the same thing with the other. We can have a new struct, generic protocol, any property Bob. The my type becomes string value. Okay, cool. You get that part? So my type is literally just a fake type name as well. It's like a placeholder. It used to be called the type alias, but when it comes to protocol, now they've changed it to associate type value. So my type is something they're going to define later down the road. Okay, cool. So you can also do this. So now what we've done is you have defined the associate type based on the value implicit way, but now you can also define the, so when you do this, you're going to type my type equals bool, and then var any property. You can do this right there. So yeah, when you say my type, your type alias right there. It just automatically you can define the associate type by calling type alias. Also this one used to be called type alias, but now they call it associate type. But you can also define the type explicitly by calling my type equals bool. Okay, cool. Hope that makes sense to you. So there are two ways to go about that. I think that was it. Part of this. That was it for this lesson. It was nice and short. All I wanted to show you was introduce you to what generic protocol allows you to do. It can be useful for, and also in the end, you will understand. By the end of this course, you understand how Swift is actually a protocol or a programming language. And a lot of you may probably not gonna understand what it means to be a protocol or programming. Well, if you know how to use protocol to make stuff, well, that's not just it. You're gonna learn more down the road. In this lesson, I just wanted to get the fundamentals of the generic protocol, and let's talk about more and more why this is useful in your own application. But I'll tell you up front that this chapter is not really too applicable. Well, it is applicable, but it's not too practically based. I'm telling you that the next course you might enjoy how I use all this feature, but just want to get through the fundamentals in this chapter, okay? But at least if you know if you're smart enough, you'll be able to apply this in your own project. But if you don't know, well, that's okay. You can wait for the next course. I'll walk you through the entire thing. You'll never code the same way. Well, if you learn this, if you take this chapter, you'll probably get better understanding and be able to apply it in your code. But anyway, see you guys in the next lesson. You've learned how to create generic protocol by implementing associate type. Just like generics, the associate type must be defined later by classes, enums, and struct that confirms that protocol. There are two ways to define associate type. The first one is let Swift infer based on the value you interact with. Second is you can create a type alias that define associate type directly and explicitly. In the next lesson, you will learn how to add limitation and constraints to protocol extension, just like generic constraints. See you in the next lesson.